Hi everyone, welcome to ConductVision Talks. A few years ago, a cute guy approached me for violin lessons. I'm always curious when a grown-up decides to take up the violin. What inspires him or her to take up the challenge of playing one of the most difficult instruments? Today, I'm very happy to welcome my former violin student and good friend, Pablo Gil Torres, a digital product director and violinist and painter in his free time. I wanted to find out more about how music and art inspire him and if he has a takeaway message for us, how art reflects on his work environment. So with this in mind, I reached out to sunny Spain. Pablo, what inspired you to play the violin?
Well, actually, I've always loved the instrument. I think it has a very, I didn't know back then, but it has a very um, very distinct voice, very pristine, clean voice that I was both experiencing as a harmony arrangements when it was paired with other violins, and also as a main melodic line. And I couldn't tell those apart when I was starting, but that mix of how he was communicating with me resonated at many levels. So I've always loved the instrument. I've always loved the instrument, and in particular, when I decided to take up violin, I was listening to a lot of Bob Dylan, and in particular, I was going through the street and I was listening to the song "Hurricane," which has a beautiful violin line that loops around throughout the whole song. And I said, well, I went by a music store and I was thinking, how much is a violin? Because I want to play this. And I went in and apparently I like what it told me. So I got one and I went back home and I started trying to play it.
And what was your main challenge when you started playing?
Honestly, it was about finding the right position for the fingers. Like when I started playing, as you well know, I tried to learn on my own. I tried to learn by watching YouTube videos and by going to the Wikipedia page, reading where the notes were, and actually painting them on the mast. So actually, I was kind of struggling to. I could hear the melody when I was trying to play Greensleeves or Happy Birthday to You, but it wasn't quite there. Okay, so I knew that has some resemblance to what I wanted to play, but somehow, who knows why, it wasn't quite the melody that I was looking for. So yeah, it was actually the fact that I didn't have the muscle memory and I didn't have the trained ear to understand close or how far I was to what I wanted to sound like. What threw me off. And that was the tip of the iceberg, obviously. That was the symptoms that I was experiencing. But it was a matter of how you hold the violin, how you hold the bow, how the two arms communicate, how being relaxed here means that you will also be relaxed here. Back in the days, I could read music because I had taken up some lessons when I was a kid, but I wasn't that experienced. So I had to do a bit of translation before starting playing. But that wasn't the main thing. That came with practice. It was well, actually I had delved on the violin for about a month or a month and a half before I contacted you. So I was still like going around the very edges of it. I was trying to get a hold of it, the knack of it. I think I was scrambling around, but it was there was the thing that was more jarring was it sounded like the notes that I wanted to play, but they weren't.
In preparation for our talk today, you mentioned that later in Australia you played in a band. I found that a great story. So if you could share it with us.
Well, the thing is that I brought my violin to Australia. When I went to Australia, I did this a bit of a personal challenge. So I wanted to look for a job. I wanted to get a working visa there. So therefore, when I first arrived there, all my economic efforts were geared towards being able to stay in the country for as long as possible. So I took my violin, but I couldn't take lessons. So I tried to practice on my own. I tried to remember, what you taught me. I brought my two notebooks and everything like that. But it was a good topic of conversation. It was in parties. We usually we would go to campings where people would bring guitars and so on. So I always tried to meld in some of the tunes, especially the folk Irish ones that are very easy to sing around a campfire. At some point, a friend of mine threw a party after a big race there, which is called City to Surf. And they called me because they wanted to play some live music. And one of the songs, "Big Jet Plane" by Julia and Angus Stone, has a beautiful both accompaniment, both arrangement, and both a living line on the violin. So they told me to come play with them. And from there, well, the show was a bit of a hit and miss. But from there, uh, we got together and say, guys, why don't we do this? Why don't we just create a band? Why don't we play together? And we did. And actually, it was one of the most rewarding and one of the fondest memories that I have from that period, because we rented a space, a practice room, which was dark. It was prepared for recording, so it had their own drum sets, it had their own mics, it had their own amplifiers, and it was a bit like going into a chapel, into a church. It had this sounds to it, it has this reverberance to it. um, you could feel really the mood changing when you were going there. And yeah, as I was mentioning, I remember back in the day that happened for a year or so. Uh, and there were some days at work that you would be really, really tired. That you would be like you had enough for the day. You were brain dead. And I was thinking, I don't wanna go to practice. I just wanna go home, watch a series, whatever. But I would force myself to go in there. One of the guys would bring a six pack and whatnot, and yeah, you would just plug your instruments in. You would try the first songs. You would, that line that when it was coming because you had practices kicked in. You could feel, when the drum guy, with the sound because he was feeling, powerful. You could feel the energy flowing, and man, that would change everything. Like you could feel your muscles, relaxing. You will start laughing. You start like checking on anecdotes with the guys. He would say, "Hey, why don't we try this thing? Oh, we have this song from this Spanish composer, Polonés, La Flaca, or why don't we try this Smashing Pumpkins song? Or this good song really, really good with a violin? Or why don't we just go for a medley, and just see what happens?" And we would like end up in laughs, and really trying. The vibe would be about exploring, about it was okay to commit mistakes. It was okay to try new things. That would be like a safe environment, where we just do this cool song, and we could just give it a different touch, a different arrangement. We would switch singers from time to time. It was just a space for us to expand, try new things, check on each other, see how we were doing, how was life, how was work. This was weekly, and we were friends. We would see each other outside the rehearsal room. But yeah, that would create like a space time capsule, uh, and I never ever regretted spending those hours there, or doing that instead of going home and watching series or relaxing as I might sometimes I would want to do after a tough day. So yeah, funny enough, I was telling you the other day, we never did a gig. Basically, the only gig that we did was the one that brought us together.
So that's a pity.
uh, yeah, I wanted us to push for a gig, so that would pressure us into getting a bit more formal about our songs, our timing, our set list. But it was good enough. It was good enough. Yeah.
You showed me then, like the other day, also that you currently now that you do watercolors. So, and they're
Yeah,
beautiful. I have to say, I was amazed. So tell me, you
we're
play the
working on that.
violin. I remember when we first met, you were carrying your camera with you. So you have a great passion actually for art. What does art
Mhm.
generally bring you? And does it reflect on your work, in your work
Well,
environment?
I was reflecting a little bit on that prior to the call. I think it has impacted me in two dimensions.
Hmm.
Personally, as an individual level, and at the team level. So one thing, well, I work dealing with very abstract terms and very holistic terms. I help digital business succeed. So at the very beginning, everything's very airy, very misty, very non-defined. So there's a term which is called paralysis by analysis, and it's very easy when you deal with abstract terms and with plans and with how you're going to be successful in the future to overanalyze and to go into detail of all the things that you want to set in motion and to spend a lot of time there. What it, one thing that I've drawn from all these activities is that practice makes perfect. That the sooner that you get your hands dirty, the sooner you crash with reality, the sooner you start delving into the actual thing that you have to create. That's when you will that's when things will start speeding up, and you will never get it right at the beginning. You have to crash as waves do, against the wall several times, learn from there, understand what you got wrong and why, and then practice and practice and practice until little by little it will get better. The other thing it has to do, or I put it in the same kind of the same spectrum, is to get inspirations elsewhere. Okay, whenever you have to figure out what you have to do, is fair to look around and you don't need to find everything by yourself. It's not your task, your responsibility to come up with all the good ideas. It's actually way better to understand how things are done elsewhere, to inspire yourself, to see what works somewhere, why you like it, what makes you tick from why you like it, and not copy it.
Hmm.
Just understand why that's different and why that resonates with you, and try to see how you can bring that to your spectrum. And sometimes, you leave your head from your work and you just look elsewhere, and that makes you shift your perspective. And me easily, I cannot take music into what I do, and I cannot just get. But like sometimes when I'm trying to paint, I go to Instagram and I check on another artists, and I see how they look at shadows, or how lack of definition shifts the focal point, and I say, oh, I want to try that, and I'm not gonna copy it, but I know what I want to happen. So the same happens at work. It's like sometimes I kind of figure out how to get an idea to work, and it's like, okay, I'm working in bank or something, so
Hmm.
banking, but I really like this fitness app, and they're dealing with a similar problem. Why that worked in this environment? Why do I like here? Why this creates no friction? And you can always like bring that different point of view somewhere else. And the other thing, and this comes more from that rehearsing and that practicing and that band those band moments that I had, is to, and this is very cultural, and this has bigger implications, and it has not to do with being, basically it's, for everyone to shine, you have to make your teammates shine for the work to shine. Basically, you have to really work on give them the space to shine. You have to empower them. You have to push them upwards. If you really focus on everyone being empowered, being at ease, having a space of feeling safe, feeling secure, where they can share, where they can feel they can propose an idea and they are not going to be judged for that. They are not going to be ridiculed. Like every voice is listened and is heard. Um, noise coming in. That will reflect on the mood, that will reflect on the work, that will reflect on the result, and very likely you will forge relationships that will go over the engagement per se, and that will be life lasting. Yeah, and that works for trying to rehearse a song, trying to push a company forward, or I don't know, almost anything in life.
Yeah, well said, Pablo. Look, thank you very much for this talk. It's an inspiration. Like, I think for many who maybe would like to take up an instrument or any type of art activity, like painting, sculpturing, and you have actually well explained how it also affects, your work too. So thanks again, and all the best from and wishing you a great sunny day.
Thank you. It has been an absolute pleasure. I love the subject. I love the topic.
I know.
Yeah, it's been really great.
Okay. Thanks, Pablo. Bye-bye.
Thank you.